purpose, drive, mission, your goals. These are all very widely talked about things in the realm of self-improvement, about how you can achieve your goals, about how you become the best version of yourself, about working towards something that you can achieve. And this is all very important. This is all very good. And a very common tactic people will say to do for you to achieve your goals is to become obsessed, right? To devote 100% of yourself to that goal, and it will be achieved. And I talked about this a little bit before, about when I was talking about persistence. And it's very important to devote yourself to a goal, to put in the effort that it takes to achieve your goal. But I was thinking about this recently, and the fact that I have fallen into a bit of a rut. I have not been really feeling the same drive that I used to get when it came to working towards my goals. For a long time, I've had the goal of gaining 1,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. I've had the goal of hitting 150 pounds on a bulk, and I've been really struggling with that for a long time. And the goal of 150 pounds bulking is in reach soon. It's coming, right? But the goal of gaining 1,000 subscribers hasn't really been doing as well, right? I haven't made nearly as much progress as I thought I would, and it's mostly because I've been very, very busy this summer, and it's been difficult for me to devote the time and attention that I used to be able to devote to these YouTube videos that I did last summer when I had a huge amount of growth. And I haven't really been feeling like I've been making progress. I felt like I've been stuck in self-improvement recently. And I started to think about this more and more, and I started to realize that I was tying too much of my worth in self-improvement to YouTube. YouTube was this channel was starting to become my self-improvement. And this is a big problem, right? When you devote your happiness, what gives you joy, to a goal, and you start to not make progress in that goal, obviously you're not going to feel like you're making any progress. You're going to feel kind of miserable, right? And of course, it's not saying that, you shouldn't chase goals, you shouldn't chase growth, you shouldn't chase achieving something, you should never become obsessed with anything. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't tie your joy, you shouldn't tie your happiness to achieving that goal, right? You hear all the time in like those cheesy, motivational posters or whatever, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And a lot of those kind of inspirational things get made fun of a lot in the self-improvement space. And I kind of see why, like a lot of people feel like they're not making as much progress as they want because they're not obsessed enough. They're not putting in the effort that they need to achieve that goal, and everybody else around them is telling them to slow down, to relax, to quit. And of course, obviously it can be very frustrating when you're hearing from a guy like me saying that the destination is important too. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should never chase goals. I'm saying that you shouldn't wait to feel happy when you achieve that goal. You shouldn't be miserable. You shouldn't not chase joy. You shouldn't not chase relationships. You shouldn't not chase true connection. You shouldn't neglect every aspect of your life except for this one goal to become the best version, to achieve that goal, right? Because the best version of yourself is happy, has good mental health, has good relationships. The best version of yourself isn't just the one who has 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. The best version of yourself is the one who actually enjoyed the journey to achieving 1,000 subscribers, right? I believe Hamza, if you're into self-improvement, you probably know who he is. He's a very famous YouTuber when it comes to this, and he kind of sparked a lot of the trend of improving yourself, if you could call it that. And he has changed my life. He's been very important in my life journey. And he spoke once about, this is an old video a long time ago, but he spoke about the fact that he went on a hike with a bunch of friends, right? And he went on this hike. It was like this mountain, the tallest mountain in like the UK or something. Just like this big mountain, right? Not overly enormous, but still a difficult hike, right? And they're hiking up this mountain and they're taking this path, and there were some people that he knew that were taking this hike, and they just kept trudging on. They just kept moving, just kept pushing forward. And Hamza realized that he was kind of falling to the back. And that's because on this hike, he kept stopping to admire the view, to see the world around him, right? And of course, he also made it to the top. But it took him a little longer, but he enjoyed the hike a lot more. A lot of people were absolutely exhausted, absolutely wiped out when they reached the top. And they were happy that they reached the top, and of course, everybody celebrated. But Hamza, took his time, enjoyed the journey on this hike. And that sort of gave me this realization that both of them reached their goal. Both of them made it to the top. But Hamza enjoyed his journey. Hamza found happiness, right? Because the point of this hike isn't to reach the top. The point of the hike is to enjoy the hike, right? But so often we become distracted, we become consumed by this idea that we can't feel happiness until we achieve our goal, right? Of course, you should still work. Of course, you should still push yourself. Of course, you should still keep moving forward, keep trying hard, keep putting in the effort that it takes to achieve your goal. But you should still enjoy the grind. You should still enjoy your life. And sometimes that means stopping to admire the view on the hike, right? A lot of people, when they're making progress in their self-improvement journey, they're trying to reach, a specific goal. Maybe it's like a YouTube channel like me where you're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. Maybe it's you're trying to bulk. Maybe it's trying to lose weight. Maybe you're chasing that number on the scale, right? Like, say someone's trying to lose weight. Some people, when they're trying to lose weight, go on this extreme diet, right? And they lose a bunch of weight super fast. They feel miserable, but they reach their goal, right? They reach their goal weight of whatever weight they want, right? Say they're a 250-pound person, they're trying to be 180, right? It's a lot of weight to lose. But there's two people, right? One person goes in this extreme diet, starving themselves, and they lose their weight very quickly. And they're very happy that they finally reached their goal weight of 180, right? The other person, who's 250 pounds, also goes on a diet, right? They also exercise. They also put in the work that they need to do. And, maybe they have an extreme diet or even more extreme diet than the other person. But the difference is, it's not the work that they're doing to put in, the difference between these two people isn't the effort that they're putting into their work. The difference is the person who is trying to get to 180 pounds is honestly like my dad, where they get a magic marker and they write on the mirror the weight that they are. And they keep tracking it, and they keep going down, keep going down, keep going down. And every time they reach a smaller number, they celebrate, they're happy. Right? Of course, they don't go binge eat because they lost 2 pounds, right? But they find joy in those little moments, those little milestones to the road of achieving your goal, right? They're not obsessing over 180, and they're not miserable if they don't hit 180. They're content if they plateau. They're content if they keep losing weight and they reach, 200, and for whatever reason they aren't losing any more weight. They're still happy that they've reached 200, and they're still going to try to find solutions to losing their weight, to getting those last 20 pounds down to 180, but they're still happy that they lost 50 pounds, because 50 pounds can change your life, right? But they're not miserable. They don't have horrible mental health because they aren't reaching their goal. And here's the thing. The person who has horrible mental health finally reaches their goal, right? They're probably going to mess up. They're going to fail, right? They're probably going to quit their extreme diet. They're probably going to binge eat a bunch of food because they felt miserable for so long, and food is what gives them a sense of relief, right? And they're going to binge eat, and they're going to gain a bunch of weight back, and they're going to feel horrible about themselves, and they're going to lose weight again, and they're stuck in this endless cycle. But the person who celebrates their big win who celebrates the fact that they've reached 200, and they're happy about that, and they still want to lose more weight, but let's say they mess up on their diet, right? They gain 10 pounds back. They're not miserable thinking, oh my gosh, now I'm 30 pounds away from my goal instead of 20 pounds. Life is horrible, right? They're going to say, oh man, I gained 10 pounds back, That's not good. I'm still 210 pounds. I'm still lighter than I used to be, but that's a problem, right? And they're going to change they're going to change their habits. They're going to see what they did wrong, and they're going to grow and learn from their mistakes, rather than the person who is constantly chasing that goal, constantly changing that feeling of success, obsessing over it. That's the difference between a person who doesn't just care about achieving their goals, but cares about living their best life, and the person who feels that their entire self-worth, their entire identity is tied to whether or not they can achieve that goal. There's no sense in beating yourself up, feeling like you're a horrible person because you haven't achieved that goal, right? But there is sense in, if you have not achieved your goal yet, analyzing it, figuring out what you did wrong, learning from your mistakes, growing, but still being happy that you're on the right track, still being grateful for every little moment of your journey, right? Stopping and admiring the view. Because, back to the hike, the point of the hike was never to reach the top. The point of the hike was to enjoy the hike. There's no pot of gold at the top of the mountain. It's just a rock, right? And a nice view. So if you're the kind of person who just digs deep, pushes hard, keeps moving forward, keeps going to the top of the hike, that's fine. But understand that it's worth it to every now and then admire the view. Because at the end of the day, the person made it to the top and hated the entire experience, but made it to the top and is happy that they made it to the top, but everything else was miserable. And the person who enjoyed every step of that hike, at the end of the day, who won? Who achieved the goal? Because the goal wasn't to make it to the top, the goal was to enjoy the hike, right? The person who stopped along the way and found joy in their life is the real success. That's all I got for today. May God bless you and stay wild.